Despite the film's limited theatrical release, I recently had the opportunity to see Guillermo Del Toro's Frankenstein in theaters and wanted to share some of my initial thoughts. If you also have the opportunity to do so, I highly recommend catching this one on the big screen. I've always been a pretty big Guillermo Del Toro fan. I grew up liking his Hellboy movies, and Pan's Labyrinth remains one of my favorite dark fantasy films, and I think it's in the discussion for one of the best darker fantasy films ever made. It's clear Del Toro has a pretty deep fascination with creatures and the way they're perceived by the world and the environment around them. This is a theme that runs through much of his work, so it makes perfect sense that he'd want to tackle Frankenstein as well. Without getting into spoiler territory, I think Del Toro's reimagining of the classic story works quite well. The movie looks and sounds fantastic from the very first frame, immediately immersing you in the Enlightenment era that it takes place in, a period of rapid scientific advancement where the boundaries of scientific discovery were rapidly being expanded. You quickly understand Dr. Frankenstein's growing obsession with death, being shaped both by his own personal tragedy and experiences, as well as the overall Enlightenment era's drive to push the boundaries of science and what's possible. I thought the first act of this film was pretty much flawless, sharply directed, well-paced, and anchored by a compelling introduction to Dr. Frankenstein's character. Oscar Isaac truly gives a standout performance as the older Baron Frankenstein, completely embodying the role. I think my favorite stretch of the film was from the build-up to the creation scene. The remote castle setting, the gothic production design, lighting, and score all come together seamlessly to capture Victor's growing obsession with conquering death and how it consumes him. The film did falter a little bit for me after the creature comes to life. Jacob Elordi delivers an amazing performance as the creature, and the movie explores interesting thematic territory regarding identity, belonging, and the perception of others of this creature, but I just thought the narrative lost a little bit of focus in the second half. The pacing slowed a little bit, the writing felt a little uneven, and there were a few character decisions for me that didn't entirely line up with what came before them. Even so, Elordi's performance, the film's striking visuals, and excellent soundtrack keep it engaging through these slightly rougher patches. Overall, I quite enjoyed Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein and think it's a solid addition to his filmography. It's definitely worth catching in theaters if you can, despite its limited release, especially with the soundtrack and the visuals in this one. I think it's much more compelling if you get the chance to see it in theaters. The exploration of Dr. Frankenstein's psyche in the first half is particularly strong, and the production and score are exceptional in this movie. My main critique, again, was just that the story loses a little bit of its sharpness towards the end, but I think it has a pretty strong conclusion overall. I'd give it a solid 76% if I were to rate it on a 100% scale, and it's definitely a film that I'd revisit in the future.